Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of The Punter. We're going to take you through the weekend sporting action, down the card and find the value for you. This is where to come for your expert betting advice. Got the usual cracking panel for you. Now if you're anything like me, you spent a decent portion of last Sunday evening with a stopwatch watching Kelly Clarkson sing the national anthem about 15 times. Quite a weird thing to do, but there was money involved. My first guest, Russ Wiseman from Sporting Bet, knows all about that. You were on this national anthem catastrophe, weren't you?
I mean, just to put it right here, Neil Channing here, obviously the punter extraordinaire, has given us this bet, 1 minute 34 or under for Kelly Clarkson's national anthem. I've got every man and his dog on this in the Hickory Smokehouse in Chester. A huge Super Bowl party there. I've never seen so many sights in my life. People with stopwatches holding ribs, burgers, Budweiser, a lot. It's still being debated now. There's still some kind of debate as to whether it was a winner or not. I've certainly been paid, so I'm more than happy.
Yeah, I haven't been paid, so I'm
well,
crying.
That's okay.
So, Neil, our punter, it's your bet. Was it a winner or not a winner?
Well, I haven't actually been to collect yet. A friend of mine said he had a decent bet with Paddy Power and they paid him under 134. But I've heard other people, including yourself, Nick, say they bet with Stan James, who have said that they were 134, and they say it was over. So I don't know. We have to go to the national anthem panel, don't we?
We will. Then there must be one. And the only man sensible enough in the room not to get involved in national anthem bets is Alger of Blue Square. You wouldn't go anywhere near something like this, would you?
Absolutely not. I think it says a lot about NFL that the biggest game of the year can actually be put into a special bet beforehand about the national anthem. And no, I fell asleep after the first few points were scored.
Surely you woke up for Madonna.
No. Should have been able to bet on. There should have been Madonna bets.
There were.
Really?
Yes.
I had 50 quid on her changing hip at halfway through. I didn't actually do it. It's amazing from a betting point of view. Not great from your point of view, Neil, but the Super Bowl from a betting point of view was because it was close.
It was a tremendous betting event. I didn't have a great Super Bowl. The Patriots not quite coming home for me was a bit poor, and there were one or two other things. The shortest touchdown was very painful. The fella needs to kneel down on the 1 yard line in order to waste time while the other team are letting him score. Strategically, it's a very unusual situation, and apparently he didn't even really know the script before he went out there. And if he does that, maybe on the next down they creep in over the 1 yard line.
It's amazing. And if you haven't seen it, check out the footage. I'm sure it's on the internet, because it's like he's running to the end zone and then he kind of stoops down and then falls in like he's drunk. And you've never seen anyone more unhappy to score the winning touchdown.
I was pretty unhappy, actually.
Oh, there we are. You were amazing.
It's the biggest contact sport in the world. There was nobody within 10 yards of the bloke, wasn't there? It was quite fascinating. Really,
amazing. It was a great weekend, especially if you liked NFL. Let's find out how our other punter, Flash, got on. We know, Flash, you've been riding the Patriots, so perhaps not the happiest night for you.
No, it's so frustrating. But I've got to say that the Patriots, I thought they actually choked. 12 men on the field, safety on the first play of the game. They dropped the ball 4 times, so for me, they didn't deserve to win it. And hats off to the Giants, because the Patriots didn't do enough.
No, you make a lot of fair points, to be honest. They could have won it in a number of different ways, couldn't they?
Oh, yeah, I mean, they threw it away. I mean, Wes Welker, he had no one within 10 yards of him. He only had to catch the ball. They would have run the clock down. They would have been Super Bowl champs. But there were so many things that went wrong. I really do think that the occasion got to them. Yeah.
Let's talk about your other activities last weekend. We had your Flashes 5. Talk us through how you got on there.
Yeah, not very well, to be honest. Queen's Park Rangers were going great. They had a real good start with one of the new signs, Zamora, scoring early. Everything was going well. Everyone at the game said that Queen's Park Rangers come out the traps, really positive. And then Cisse got sent off. The whole game swung. They ended up getting beat. Shrewsbury were off. Patriots obviously lost. Sheffield Wednesday did win, and obviously France is my tip for the Six Nations. They got off to a good start by beating one of the poorest sides, Italy.
Yes, that's a good bet going forward. And we'll do your Flashes 5 later in the show. But anything particularly that's caught your eye this weekend you want to flag up for us?
Well, basically, yeah, I'm going to go for Queen's Park Rangers at Blackburn. I've made quite a few telephone calls this week to try and get an edge, and Queen's Park Rangers really go up there meaning to win the game. Mark Hughes goes back, and he doesn't want to come back with anything other than 3 points. Blackburn are not as good at home. They get on their manager really, really early. So for me, Queen's Park Rangers at around 9-4 are a good bet.
Flash, I've heard you say Blackburn are actually worse at home than they are away. Is that true?
Yeah, they are. I mean, they just seem to be better on the counter-attack than they do actually going and forcing a game. They get really nervous. A couple of times they've been up in games, and they just sit back because they don't know how to go and do it. And sometimes when they win away from home, I think they sort of almost reverse into that position. They find that they've won the game at the end without actually looking like they're going to win the game during.
Yeah, Great stuff, Flash. We'll check in with you for your tips this weekend later in the show.
Nice one.
Neil, this QPR Blackburn thing of interest to you? Sounds like you're kind of...
Yeah, it's one of the games I like the look of. There's a couple of good ones this week. Do you want to hear about the other ones right now?
No, we'll do football in the next part, but I thought that you'd be interested in the QPR
I definitely quite like QPR. I mean, I think, Flash is right. Zamora scored. They're all over them. The red card completely changed the game. In fact, Nigel had said, Butler had said he was, really up for low goals last week, and everything was going so smoothly for about 25 minutes.
Well, there were more red cards than goals at one stage in the Premier League.
It's amazing. Let's talk to the betting butler, Nigel Sealey, as ever, on the line. How are you going, Nigel?
I'm all right, guys. How are you?
Yeah, we're good, I think. We're talking QPR, funnily enough. A lot of people fancy them this weekend going up to Blackburn who haven't been so good at home.
Yeah, I mean, I did my tissue prices. I was about 7 to 4, 15 to 8, the two of them. I really couldn't split the two, so the prices have surprised me. There was a bit of money for them early part of the week. It's sort of steadied around the 9 to 4 mark now. But what their problem is they've gone up against two sides before at home, and then they've let a player sent off, and the whole couldn't feel that the game has changed. They did it last week. They did it against Norwich, and indiscipline has cost them. So provided they keep 11 players on the pitch, I think they've got a great chance. I wouldn't put anyone back in that one.
Okay, interesting stuff. We should round up the previous week's action by talking about the England manager situation. Of course, it's the big story that's been on every sporting channel. We want to talk about it from a betting point of view. Is there any reason to oppose Harry Redknapp, and is anybody opposing Harry Redknapp?
Well, I mean, we've seen a little. I mean, let's put this in perspective. I'm not going to go around giving you stories about thousands of pounds being struck on the likes of Mourinho and Hiddink. But there has been some money for Hiddink, a little bit of money for Stuart Pearce, and a little bit of money for Mourinho. But there are significant bits of money flying around for Harry Redknapp. I actually think, it's not often we'd say that on a show like this where we're kind of really into detailed punting, but I think there's a threes-on shot. He's very, very good. If you're at the FA now, the only guy that can get the public and the media off your back is Harry Redknapp, and surely it's only something from a history point of view that can stop him being the manager now.
It's interesting you put it like that, actually, because as opposed to footballing reasons, like it gets the media off the back. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Can I ask you guys a question? No bull.
Yeah,
I want
frank
answers.
Yeah, go on. I'll give you.
Okay. How much money do you actually take on this? I mean, you don't have to give me exact.
I know
is it
the biggest,
the
biggest bet that we have taken on Harry Redknapp is £1,200.
And
now,
if it's decided within a month, you'll take what, 10 grand on the whole thing?
I wouldn't think it would be much more than that. No, I mean, but I mean, maybe
what
there'll be an avalanche.
600 at 3 on is the biggest Redknapp bet that we've laid.
And by the way, if you ask for 3,000 at 3 on, I don't think we quite. I think the maximum takeout per bet with us, I think, is 500.
And on a kind of normal manager thing, I can't think what the last one was in the Premier. What would be the comparison in size?
There's activity going on now. We've seen equal amount of money actually in the last 3 or 4 days, would you believe, for the Leeds manager job. So that puts it in perspective, yeah.
Let's take a look at the England manager odds. You just cited the Redknapp odds. Let's just have a quick look at the market. Because he is about 3 to 1 on, is he? Something like that? Yeah, 3 to 1, 11 to 4. And then Stuart Pearce second favourite, because Hiddink third favourite. We've
had to shorten Pearce from 16 to 1 when the news of Capello's resignation came out to 11 to 2. And that's off the back of small amounts of money where I don't know whether people are gambling. I can't really see the point behind the money, because I don't think Pearce will get the job permanently. The only thing that can happen in your favour there is if Redknapp doesn't agree terms with England. All the talk and the body language this morning from his interview at Spurs Lodge, which is meant to be about this weekend's Tottenham game. It's a press conference for Tottenham about their game at the weekend in the Premier League. All the talk there was about him taking this job, and he made certain little references in his language this morning to suggest that as soon as they ask, he will accept it.
It's one of his clauses that he has to do all his press conferences through a car window.
He gets a lot. He's a lot on the phone as well. But I do think that. I mean, Neil, is a value punter, obviously a professional at this game, and he pinpointed the other week the guy who's the best director in the Oscars, and he picked him up about 4 to 7. He's about 4 to 1 on now. But funny enough, I actually do think that he offers value at 4 to 11. Exactly what Alan said is absolutely spot on. It's only about him agreeing terms and some of the negotiation. Apart from that, there's no other people.
What are the other things that could stop him doing it? I guess if Tottenham win the league, would that stop
some history there. Daniel Levy has inserted a 10 million release clause for this season. Now, the FA won't wait till next season because they obviously want somebody in place for Euro 2012. I suppose the Pearce backers are looking at that stopgap, whereas
Right.
Pearce will get it on a permanent basis, but until a certain point,
yeah.
if that makes any particular sense.
Okay.
And without getting libelous, I suppose if Ulrika Johnson or somebody came out with some sort of story that she'd been
What- but
doing
what,
something,
like,
that could really hurt things as
I mean,
well.
that must be about 3-1 or something. She's been known to- let's just get
Okay,
Nigel's
go on,
perspective on this. Nigel, do you think Harry Redknapp's value, even though he's so short?
Well, I mean, the thing is, if you read the press reports and you repeat everything else, you would expect him to be a lot shorter than what the current price is. I mean,
Yeah.
you've got size 3 on, he's 2-1 on their betting exchanges. So it looks to me a decent bet. I can't see it out then being anybody other than Redknapp or Pearce. I don't think anybody else has got a chance. I think Hiddink, he's got a very, very strong connection with John Terry. I think that they've worked together closely, and he's already said that his relationship with John Terry could maybe be a factor in being considered for the job, or the same thing as Capello's done. But I spoke to many people yesterday who sort of work in the football world, and every one of them tells me that Redknapp will get the job. It's just a question of when he gets it rather than if he gets it. So I think Redknapp is the guy you should be backing. I can see Alan's point on Stuart Pearce. I think if they do come towards the end of the season or do it, and Stuart Pearce does go in, and England do have a very good European Championship, it might be hard to get him out of the position because he's taken a team that's done well. But if Stuart Pearce takes them, they've got, they're 10-1 shots for a reason because they haven't got much of a chance in that competition. So I think Redknapp is the man. I think he's the only one who wants the job. I think the FA wants him, providing everything's right in his personal life. And I think Harry Redknapp represents first-rate value at 1 to 2.
There's some history there, though, isn't there? Because I think Harry told a few of his acquaintances in the betting world that he was about to take the job at Newcastle once, and that was backed him from evens to 20-1 on. And I know one of his ex-players, I think, had a real accident with that on one of the exchanges, and obviously
there's a difference here, though. The difference is here, mate, is that the Newcastle manager probably had a short list of 5 or 6 people that if he didn't take him, he could use another guy for the job. This short list is really one.
Well, it was his wife not wanting to move up north, wasn't it? It was simply
I mean,
that,
he didn't want to commute all the way down, go up by aeroplane every day. But I mean, if he didn't take it, there was someone in the wings ready to take it.
Yeah.
Who else is waiting in the rings in this job? This is his job. This is what he's worked all his career for. I mean, and he's the only one who wants it, and I just can't see anybody else on the list. Roy Hodgson. What's that going to do? That's just ridiculous.
I heard that Alan had written in to recommend heartily Arsene Wenger.
It would solve 2 great problems, wouldn't it? He would be exposed on an international stage and people would have to defend him, and we'd also get rid of him.
Flash, do you fancy anyone apart from Redknapp? I'm looking for some kind of punting value of some kind in this market. I don't think there is any.
You've just said it. Harry Redknapp at 3-1 on, that's 33% on your money. So, I mean, you go anywhere in the world, you're not going to get 4 or 5% your money. So, for me, it's only Harry Redknapp. And I think people are just not wanting to get their fingers burnt, like Alan and Russ have just said. But for me, it's only Harry.
There you go. We found value for you, and it was exactly where you most expected it. After the break, we'll do the weekend's top football. But coming later, a really big horse racing story you're not going to want to miss. Keep it here with the Punter. Welcome back to the Punter. We're deep in the middle of a debate here. I'll find out what it is in a minute. We're going to look at the weekend's football. Some really good fixtures coming up from a football point of view, but also from a betting point of view, starting with the biggest fixture on the calendar, trademark, Manchester United versus Liverpool. Bit of interest in this one, probably.
Yeah. Some privileged people are going to be there, and I have to say I'm looking forward to it. But I mean, we've talked about this long and hard. I mean, this is a formulaic price. Everyone knows exactly what the price is going to be beforehand. You can see 2 major firms, ourselves and Blue Square, exactly the same odds. I always think Liverpool can do the business in these games. I think they've got the way they set up. There's going to be so much emotion as well with the Luis Suarez situation. I think it's so difficult for us to sit here and tip up anything other than kind of watch it in play and take an assessment, because at the moment at those prices, I don't think you can have any conviction at all.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's almost worth not spending too much time on this game. Because from a betting point of view,
well, that's right. From odds point
what's the interest?
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously it's not too difficult to price up. As it happens, though, when I first looked at it, I kind of thought Man U would be slightly shorter, only slightly. But I probably won't be having many bets in this game on it.
Okay, Al, presumably it'll be a big betting market generally, even though the pros might not be that excited by it.
Absolutely. obviously there are correct scores, first goal scorer, and people like to get involved when it's two highly recognisable teams like Man U and Liverpool. Then we lay lots of money on those first goal scorer bets and the extra markets on top of the what we would call the win, draw, win. But that, as Russ says, is a very standard set of prices there. The draw, sometimes value in games like this. And also, one point I'll make, that I know the Liverpool-Tottenham game didn't really prove this, but before the Liverpool-Tottenham game, if you added up all the results of the games where the top 6 in the betting had met, just before the Tottenham-Liverpool game, it was at 4.05 goals per game in those. Obviously, it had been increased by the day before. And
historically, that
Chelsea had played against Man U. But historically,
those
are the low-scoring games. Those are the games between two good teams, two good defences, coached well. That's not been the case this season. Liverpool didn't prove that with Tottenham the other day, but it could swing. It could easily swing back in this game.
So, what do you think about that, Nigel? Obviously, the sort of win, draw, loss prices aren't that exciting, but the goals or anything like that, find an angle for us.
It explains why my bank balance is so low. That's what it does. It explains that. But I mean, the thing is with these games, like you say, I mean, you look at them and I think you do, but bookmakers have it just about right. I mean, the thing is with Manchester United have so many injuries, and last week when they played Chelsea, everyone was going to what a fantastic comeback it was and how well they played. They played dreadfully before that, and it was more Chelsea's inability to finish him off and Chelsea's tactically naivety that got them back into the game. So it wasn't a great Manchester United side, a great Manchester United performance. It was a very, very poor performance from Chelsea. So, but if you look at Liverpool, they have a fantastic record against the big teams who keep staying. I just wouldn't be surprised to see them go and do a number on them, especially with the Suarez factor. And I think that the Manchester United side are really there for the taking. I mean, anyone who gets beat at home to Blackburn, and anyone who goes 3-0 down against the Chelsea side, regardless if they come back or not, there are problems there. And I would take Liverpool on, especially on the. I would look to Manchester United, and take a chance and get the ball with me as well. But I can't make any other really than just get with small layout Manchester United.
And I know Flash has been riding Man United for most of the season. Thinks they're underestimated. Does that apply to this game, Flash?
Even more so. I think that they were brilliant last week, and apart from 2 deflections and obviously one really good goal from Chelsea, I thought Man United were dominant throughout the game, and also the belief that came through them. I just think that tomorrow Liverpool got real problems in midfield because they don't know who they're going to play. They didn't play with any width the other night. They played a right footer at left back. And I think they'll probably come and just try and stifle the game.
Who are they playing as referee for them this week, Flash?
Anyone, it doesn't matter, does it? At Old Trafford, they all wanted to join in and play in the red shirt. So for me, I've got Man United down, and I mean, I've tried to predict the goals again for this week, and I've gone for Man United to win 2-0. They are one of my 5 as well, and I just think that Man United, they don't lose many games from now until the end of the season.
We'll
do you
see
think
if
of Spearing's performance the other day in midfield? I thought it was absolutely awful. For Liverpool.
He had a bad game.
I'm just thinking
as I said,
inexperienced midfield against
as
Manchester
United. As I said 7 or 8 weeks ago, the Lucas injury is like he's apart from Rayner, he's probably the most important player to Liverpool.
I have to say though, I have to say, Liverpool fans, and I know you're one, Nick. I mean, they did the same to Jamie Carragher for the first year he was there, hounded him. They did the same to Lucas for the first year. I mean, Spearing's probably a good player, just had a particularly bad game tonight. I wouldn't give up on him just yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, we just don't score goals. That's the main thing. Is there a red cards angle in this fixture? Because the fixture attracts a ludicrous amount of them. I think it's second only to Liverpool-Everton in terms of the Premier League. Yeah,
it's a funny one, this, because obviously being from that part of the world and knowing this fixture so well for literally 30 years, I've been watching this game. I mean, the fans almost bay for somebody to be sent off to satisfy their need if they're losing. I mean, it's one of those. Like,
and even Michael Owen's been sent off in this fixture.
If you're losing the game, get sent off. At least you get some sort of hero cult status. So I don't know what price it is. It was about 5-2.
5-2.
Yeah, 5-2 for a red card. Which is interesting, really, because there's a game this weekend with Leeds United and Brighton where we're 7-4 for red card. There's been a red card in the last 5 games, but it's not what you call a value bet, but it could certainly kick off at some stage. Certainly if the team's losing.
And no handshake bets, I presume, because they've all come out and said we're all shaking hands and we're all friends.
I think that has happened.
Just tell your traders.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
Let's move on then. The next game of the weekend, the next big game is Tottenham Newcastle, which is televised, and of course 2 teams fighting for European football and high positions in the league. What's your view on this? Is this presumably a decent sized betting heat?
I think there's going to be a unanimous verdict across the panel here, and you won't see it reflected in the prices on the screen because our traders obviously agree with both of us that that there's some Newcastle prices about that are 13-2, approaching 7-1, which is frankly ridiculous because
7-1, you can get
approaching
almost.
7-1.
I think. Wow.
Tottenham have failed at home when odds on in matches over the last 2-3 years that you would not expect them to fail, and I can't see anyone trusting them at 2-1 on, and obviously shorter in other places. And I think the value has to be with Newcastle, but maybe plus a goal.
So Al, just to develop that further, at what point would Newcastle not become value in your eyes? What price would you consider them to be fair?
Well, I would say that our traders, if they hadn't seen the other prices and the market develop, might have had it even shorter than this. But in some respects, because there's such a battle for percentage, they could have had it easily at 9-2 on their tissue before they looked at it.
Right.
But 11-2 is a place where you probably won't see any money anyway. So you may as well duck the Spurs price as well while you're doing it. So I think that's the way the market develops these days.
I definitely expected to open up the paper and see how old school I am. Open up the paper, not click on the window. 8-13 and 9-2. I thought that was just it looked like an easy one to price up really. And I'm amazed at these prices. I mean, Newcastle score goals for sure. They win games away from home. They're not doing too badly at the moment. And
Tottenham look lacking in attacking.
They're a little bit anemic.
Why has it happened then?
Well, I think at the moment Tottenham are the buzz team. There's certainly a good feeling about them. What they've done very well, Spurs, this year, they've done a very un-Spurs-like thing, and that's they've ground out victories when they've been playing particularly poorly. Actually, I've been watching them a lot. Obviously, I'm at the ground quite a lot at White Hart Lane, and the anxiety that the crowd get in when they start playing this average football. And obviously, Wolves have gone there and got very easily drawn the game. In the last half hour, Spurs don't have any shots on target in that game. So they've probably been overachieving Spurs. It's probably a good way to endorse Harry Redknapp's skills. They haven't really been playing well and getting the job done. Got to back up the boys here. The prices now, they're really favouring bookmakers. But still tomorrow, I'd suggest that we'll see most of the money for Spurs. I mean, you can just imagine it.
Nigel, are you going to say anything different to what these boys are saying?
No, I think they're a bit Newcastle. You do. I mean, Tottenham have got four key players back, and Lennon, Van der Vaart, Cabal, all back. But I still think that the price on Tottenham the price on Newcastle is too big. I definitely agree with Alan on the Asian handicap, getting them 1.5 star. And I think all the media attention and Harry Redknapp at Tottenham, you can imagine what he's going to be like when he gets into that dagger. I just think it may be a bit off-putting for the Tottenham players. He's still got a big job to do, a big season, and I think it could motivate the Newcastle side. And this is Alan Pardew. Fancies he should be having media attention as well. So I think they're massive. I think Newcastle are absolutely massive for this game. 7-1 is a huge price.
I see Alan Pardew came out and said he wouldn't take the England job. That was helpful of him.
Don't die.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know the thing about that though is that people criticised him for saying it, and then. Can you name 3 other Englishmen that are bigger contenders than Alan Pardew?
No, I guess you can't.
So,
yeah.
I mean, if the shortlist is 5, like most manager shortlists, then he would definitely be on it by default.
Personally, I don't understand the English thing. If they can speak English, that's fine by me. It's the not speaking English, I think, is the big problem. But
I think Capello did.
No, he didn't. That's the point. But you're absolutely right. Yeah, there aren't bigger contenders actually. Yeah. Flash, what do you think about this game, the Tottenham Newcastle? Everyone in their world and their wives on Newcastle.
No, I'd want to go with Spurs. I wouldn't want to get. I wouldn't want to get involved as a betting proposition. But I do think the Spurs. I wasn't impressed with Newcastle last week at home to Aston Villa. I thought the unbelievable finish from the Denver Cisse
that was class, wasn't it?
But apart from that, I thought the Villa had plenty of the game. They had plenty of chances, and no, for me, it's definitely again maybe 1-0, maybe 2-0. But I'd go with Spurs.
Okay, good to have a dissenting view. Now, speaking of Villa, we'll look at Villa-Man City next, the other game that affects the title race. This is on Sunday. It's also televised. And Man City looking to keep winning. I mean, that's the point we're at in the season, isn't it? What do you see of this
Well, I mean, they were pretty clinical last week, weren't they, City? They did what they were meant to do, and everybody expected them to be that way. They were get straight back on the horse. But, I mean, we're entering this stage of the season now where there is pressure on. It's extraordinary, really, how hard it is for teams to just, who've never been there. But, I expect this to be a massive gamble again. I mean, I can see Blue Square 4-6 was 7-10. I mean, it's very difficult to put punters off backing Manchester City. I would imagine the more professional people will be with Villa because it's still a difficult place to go to, Villa Park. But again, I anticipate seeing the bulk of the money for Man City and probably seeing the prices move at some point.
4-1 on a home team that aren't horrendous might attract some people?
It might do, but I just think defensively Villa at the moment are conceding goals, and if any team in the Premier League are going to exploit that, then it's Man City with their attacking threat that they've got throughout the team. So I don't think it'll be easy for City, but I think that if you've ticked it off in your accumulator and you check it after the game, then you've probably won. If you've backed them in a hefty single and watch it, you might struggle to watch it.
Yeah. Neil, you like
I
this one?
think generally speaking, life would be easier for most punters if they never bet odds on away, as a general rule.
That's a good general rule.
But having said that, I don't massively want to be with Villa. I thought they really killed me in that game against Arsenal the other week. They are a bit rubbish. There's so many other good opportunities this week. I mean, I think this is, if I had this on a short list of good bets of the week, if I was having 6 bets in the Premier, maybe I'd back Villa, but there's so many other good ones this week. I don't think I want to back this one.
Okay.
No play game for me.
Let's move on. We'll move on to Sunderland Arsenal. This is partly so Alan can have his weekly rant, but also we are interested in the betting market. Nigel, what do you think about Sunderland Arsenal? It's a slightly interesting one, just because Sunderland are on such a run.
Can I quickly ask you a question, Nigel? Do you think?
I just asked him
Oh,
a
I'm
question.
sorry.
I mean,
do you
he's
think
got enough on his plate.
let me just ask him
3
one. Go on.
questions.
Because I was sitting with some guys that are Arsenal fans the other day, and they were saying they were going to lump on Arsenal because Sunderland had to play the extra time and the penalties in the week, and they were going to be knackered. Is that a load of rubbish or what? Tough question.
Yeah,
It's a tough question.
got him
He's thinking
stumped.
about it.
So tough, he's ignoring it.
Don't think Nigel can hear us right now.
But I suppose the one thing I would say about Arsenal, they've got this huge game next week as well. And they've got something on
AC
their plate
Milan,
as well.
yeah.
I mean, they've got this AC Milan, which is probably the biggest game of their
I
season.
thought you were going to say they've got to play Sunderland in the FA
well,
Cup next week.
Well, Sunderland as well, yeah.
I just feel bad for Nigel that he can't answer your question because it was a bit.
I
He
think-
would have stumped him, but I mean, it's a tricky one for them. But it was a big game for Sunderland. I was quite impressed with them in midweek. But both teams have got something else to worry about. They've got the fatigue of Sunderland, but this game for Arsenal, I don't know. I mean, that's a huge match for them, isn't it, in Milan?
The game in Milan is huge because I think that the people at the club won't have looked at the betting markets, but if the markets are right and the analysis that Arsene Wenger takes with his backroom team to look at certain percentages, they'll know that the market hasn't got it fair wrong. They're 3-1 to finish in the top 4, and their route into the Champions League next season could be much easier or smoothed by the fact that they've got to go and win it. Now, that makes it, on top of the FA Cup, just 2 trophies that they can win on top of trying to get 4th place. I don't think they'll achieve any of those 3 things for the reasons that I've stated in other episodes of this show. And case in point, last week, a 7-1 victory,
Yeah.
against the worst team in the league, as you look at the table.
Yeah.
Away at home, the other team were down to 10 men, and yet on Sunday, on all the Arsenal forums and all the newspapers on Sunday and Monday, everything's rosy again in the garden. Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible.
It's football fans are short-sighted. What do you want?
And it will be.
So
it will be the downfall this week.
Just quickly on the game, you opposing them this week, because you're
Absolutely.
our barometer for Arsenal. You're opposing.
Well, I
them.
said they would win last week. I didn't think it would be as easy as
Yeah, you did.
it
You
was.
absolutely did. Yeah.
But obviously the sending off was a big effect. But this week, I think you have to be with Sunderland. But I would wait until the start of the game. I think that the Sunderland price will drift, mainly because people will just look at that 7-1 and not actually look beyond the result on a piece of paper.
Okay, Nigel, where are you on this one? Can you hear us now? He can.
I'm with you. I'm with the same as the guys in there. I think that obviously Arsenal got this huge game in the Champions League. I think Sunderland are banging form. I think 3-1 at home is an absolute crazy price. I think the tissue. I saw them at 5-2 early in the week, and I thought they couldn't get any bigger. They're getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Everyone's coming for Arsenal. If Robin van Persie has a slight knock or he has any sort of injury or any sort of injury concern for any key player, they will be coming off with 25 minutes to go, half hour rested for the game of midweek. So I just can't understand the pricing on this game. I think it's a price how you would have priced up last season or the season before when Arsenal were flying. And I don't think this is the right price at all. I think Sunderland at home represent one of the best bets of the weekend. I think, especially a lot of Arsenal at 11-10. I think that's a great bet.
Yeah, good value. Do you think it will attract money, or do you think that people are just going to keep Arsenal. I mean, it seems so big.
I mean, at the moment, we've harped on about it. Martin O'Neill, since he's joined the club, they're probably top of the league, aren't they? Since he joined there, they're very impressive at the moment. I mean, why would you want to get in the way of Sunderland at the moment? There's clearly a great energy going across that club. I'd like to be with the boys here. I think you've just got to be a layer of Arsenal at that kind of price. And I think Sunderland actually to win the game. Although Neil's point about the fatigue is one that
my question.
Let's ask Flash.
Flash,
what role do you think fatigue plays in this game? Because everyone likes Sunderland, but obviously they played a lot of football midweek.
Yeah, I mean, it's a double-edged sword. You can say that they're playing more together, they've had a lot more time on the pitch, but for me, I'd definitely go for Arsenal to win. I just think that Arsenal are more dominant in individual positions. I watched Sunderland the other night against Middlesbrough, and it probably will be that Sunderland side that plays against Arsenal. And Middlesbrough had plenty of the ball, and they had plenty of chances, but with Sunderland at home, the crowd, I mean, one of my best bets of the weekend is actually Arsenal to win at Sunderland.
It's good, Flash, that you're here, because otherwise we'd have unanimity. We wouldn't know what to do. Let's have a quick line on the other televised game, Wolves-West Brom. Both teams in trouble. Do we get to do Neil Channing's two bad teams, one as a big price wager? No, it doesn't.
I'm out the game, and obviously with Wolves, it's just such a massive game. This and tickets are hard to come by. People want to go. It's got tension written all over it. I'm under 2.5 all day long because I think that's the way. I think it's going to be. There's just so much
I think that's a fair call.
You've got to be
when you get these games
under
where
2.5 goals,
massive so much, and nobody can afford to make a mistake.
Someone said to me this morning about this game, how can it not be 0-0 after 25 minutes?
Absolutely,
literally.
I'm totally in agreement with you there. This is so much is at stake for these.
And just if people aren't used to betting on goals, what sort of price are they going to get on under 2.5?
I'm not sure. 4 to 6. Well, with us this morning, it's 4 to 6. So, I mean, they've latched onto that fact. One price that doesn't move as much as you'd think it should on the basis of goals bets, and one that I always look at, is this under 23, over 23 first goal band. And I like backing that over, as long as you back it with a firm that actually pays out if the game gets to 0-0, because some put in under 23, over 23, and 0-0 was a third option.
You don't do that, do you?
We don't do that at all, but I can't bet with Blue Square.
Everyone else can.
But I do.
All right, guys, fantastic analysis as ever, and you've got a little something there for the Wolves-West Brom game. After the break, we've got a big horse racing story to cover off for you, as well as the Six Nations. Keep it with us. Welcome back to the Punter. We're going to look at some Six Nations rugby in this part. But first of all, horse racing. The Cheltenham Festival is just a few weeks away. And there's a big betting story which is going to have a huge effect, not only now, but also in the run-up to the festival and the festival itself. And it's to do with strong favourites in all of the key races. Russ, this is turning into a big thing for you guys.
Yeah, Nick, I think you've summed up quite nicely there. It's a huge gambling industry story as well, not just about horse racing in Cheltenham, which we know is one of the big betting events of the year, but from the entire industry perspective, this is huge. Now, we've got 4 championship races at the Cheltenham Festival on each of the main days: the Champion Hurdle, the Queen Mother Champion Chase, the World Hurdle, and then the Gold Cup. We've got 4 very short-priced horses defending their crowns.
Yeah.
I think it's an unprecedented set of circumstances. Neil thinks that maybe a few years ago we had something similar, but I don't think it's ever been in this kind of condition. And right now, I mean, the graphic sums it up there, but 20 to 1, all 4 to win. This is a price that naturally looks as though it should be shorter. I think for you to ask 90% of casual punters to what they fancy in these races, they tip all of those horses up. They've all got great credentials. And, you know, I want to put some perspective on this. If all 4 were to win, you know, you use the word Armageddon quite carefully in this kind of situation, but for the industry of the betting industry in this country, it would really be a severe blow. And I don't see how anybody at the moment is not giving some kind of credibility to all 4's chances. We're clearly taking them on because we're bookmakers, but it's fascinating, really. I should point this out. Even industry people have been backing this with us this week, almost hedging against their bonuses, I think.
Really?
And, it's a great story, but I mean, if all 4 were to win, we'd see some serious casualties in the whole industry, I think.
So just put this into perspective for us. How much money are we talking about in terms of say you've got bookies who take horse racing action? Cheltenham forms a huge portion of that, doesn't it? And so when Russ is talking about individual bookmakers potentially being put out of business or certainly suffering a huge dent.
That's no exaggeration, and I'll tell you something now. That 20 to 1 has gone in the course of us just recording the first part of this programme.
Right.
The Hurricane Fly price
are you
has been
still
cut
offering
to
all
4
four?
to 6 from 4 to 5, and we're now offering all 4 at 16 to 1.
Okay.
That 20 to 1 has been available for a long while, and I'll tell you, as Russ says, we don't like to come on this programme and do the usual PR spiel of it's hundreds of thousands of pounds. This is nearly approaching £1 million. This one at the moment.
Nearly approaching
£1 million at the moment. It's been suspended off our site 5 times because it's hit the limits that we set on the internet when the people go home at night. This is a huge, huge gamble, and it's just the 10s, 20s, 30s, 40s, and as Russ says, people hedging against the absolute worst case scenario, and that Hurricane Fly race.
We are going to see you like
all around
after Cheltenham. You're not going to be out of jobs or anything.
The only thing I would take issue there with Alan, and this, like I said, we're not going to give you the normal kind of PR spiel. I think it's going to be a lot worse than $1 million. I think when you add this up, this could.
Oh
be,
no! But I'm saying it's $1 million now.
It's $1 million. This will be absolutely an extraordinary amount. Well, that's right, it's $1 million now. But I mean, it's going to be something we've never quite witnessed before. But you know, it's all about that first race. I mean, Neil will have some different opinions as to how we work these things out.
Neil's obviously very emotional for you guys and the entire bookmaking industry. But you were saying, Neil, it gives you a completely different opportunity. So
well, there's loads of interesting things going on here. First of all, there was a big feature in the Racing Post this week, quite interesting, about the death of the on-course betting market. There's a lot of on-course bookmakers who have been clinging on by their fingernails, about to go skin, who are going to give Cheltenham one last roll of the dice, and if it doesn't work out, they're giving it up for good. And, you know, the success or failure of these 4 horses is going to make the difference.
That's amazing.
You know, quite a lot of people's lives are going to be changed by what happens in these races.
Just think they're just standing in their field now. They don't know.
It is pretty sick. The other thing that we've been talking about on this show a little bit, we've touched on once or twice, is the price wars. You know, the betting shops in this country right now are very concerned about fobties, those machines that play roulette all day long, 4 of them in each shop. And they want to get as many people to go into their betting shop as possible on a Saturday. And the way that they do that is to go the best price about a horse. The other week, Sizing Europe was 5 to 2 when it should have been 13 to 8 or whatever. And the firms are doing things like that. Now, at Cheltenham, that kind of stuff is going to happen every day. And these guys know that possibly come the day, some idiot is going to go even money Hurricane Fly because they just want to get all the Yankees and all the multiple bets in their shop. And they know that if they go, they'll take it, it's a lost leader, it's a supermarket lost leader. And so perhaps you think to yourself, well, let's try and lay the 4 horses right now at 20 to 1. And maybe artificially, the prices are sort of slightly bigger than they really ought to be. You know, if we were just pricing on supply and demand, Alan can tell you already, I believe him. It's not the normal stuff that we hear from PR guys. I think they have taken bets here, and you know, they're standing up against it.
Yeah, it's a fascinating story, and we'll definitely keep checking in with it as we get closer to Cheltenham. There is a big race this weekend as well, the Hennessy Gold Cup. Some racing affected by the weather, but this one looks like it's going to go ahead. Should be a decent amount of action on it, I would have thought.
Yeah, I'd have thought so. Our guys haven't gone up with prices yet. As they usually do with the Irish races, they usually wait until.
Well, I think it's been a troublesome
closer,
race,
yeah,
hasn't it?
Tentative. I wouldn't worry about that.
There's been
also,
3 non-runners this week, and the favourite, the second favourite, and the 4th favourite all got pulled out.
Absolutely. So our guys have been busy pricing up the all-weather sprint series, the Blue Square all-weather sprint series at Lingfield, and ignoring this huge race. But it is a big race, and obviously with the abandonment of Newbury, this is where people will look for their high-class jumping action this weekend.
Yeah. Any particular view on the race, Neil?
Well, Boston's Angels obviously is a horse that won at Cheltenham last year. Hasn't really reproduced in the same way. That's probably a favourable horse. It's not really capturing. We haven't seen any real anti-post move for this at all, and I think it'll be a day of the race job. This. I don't think anyone's really playing on it in a big way.
I think Follow the Plan is a good each way bet, but again, as you say, I think it is a day of the race, and just to see who actually turns up on the day.
Yeah, I lost interest in this race when it went down to 7 runners. It's not an each way race for me, so I just the Newbury racing looked to be so fantastic. The great news today: the meeting's going to be replayed on Friday.
Oh, so I didn't know that.
We get to watch the races on Friday.
So if you want to make those bets, you do have a chance to do it. Okay, let's move on to some rugby, shall we? Six Nations started last weekend. Great sport to bet on the tracks at a decent amount of money. and got underway similarly to how people expected, I think, in terms of low-scoring England-Scotland game.
I mean, we touched upon this, but that try was a killer blow for so many punters because it was a nasty try that in the England-Scotland game, and it was a rotten game, wasn't it? It was just an appalling sporting event, wasn't it? But
I was loving it. I was absolutely loving it.
This is why the Punter is such a wonderful show, because from a betting point of view, it's one of the greatest games ever played.
If you'd watched the Punter, you knew exactly how that game was going to go.
And everybody knew that it was going to be that kind of game, and it played out exactly as people thought it was. So for the neutral probably thought it was ghastly. There were punters enjoying it everywhere, but it was
it's just the fact that try happened in such a way.
So
it wasn't a superb piece of attacking play, and it wasn't someone charging down the wing and slowly getting a try.
Lots of bad language knocking around after that.
And agonising.
I so nearly sent some bookmakers broke before Cheltenham's even started.
Unfortunately. So let's spin through this week's fixtures quickly. Italy, England.
Yeah, this one is an interesting one. There'll be 75,000 Italians absolutely baying for blood here. This
different
is played,
stadium.
Yeah, different stadium. Played where Lazio and Roma play the game. It's going to be a real hotbed of atmosphere, tough pitch. We've gone best price here. I mean, Blue Square are very similar to us, but we don't mind. England will probably win this game. Don't mind taking them on the back of last week's performance and also the conditions and the environment. We don't know what it's going to be like in Rome. It's going to be fascinating, but
so taking
don't mind taking them on in that game.
We can pair with the handicap as well with rugby, which is perhaps something English punters on as used to, but there we go.
Evens and evens. Well played sporting. I'm glad to see that.
And I mean, but again,
the seven. Sort it out.
It's the seven, though.
The seven,
isn't it? The seven's the key. We could land the tie, no problem there, I think.
Where would you be on this now?
If I had to have I was kind of hoping that England were going to be kind of 12-point underdogs, and I was going to wade in with the Italians. If I had to have a bet, I think you can get a bit of 8.5, and I would go with Italy, but. I think I'm going to leave this one. I do like one of the other games quite a lot.
Well, let's see if we
the key thing here is that obviously you've tipped up France last week with a 19-point handicap. But the French, once they actually got in front against this, they didn't really care about the last 20 minutes of the game, did they?
They're not exactly workaholics, are they?
No.
That's the thing.
So it was a little bit frustrating, that one.
Now, I think England's work ethic might actually get them over the handicap, and maybe that handicap has overreacted from the point where you said you thought it'd be around 12.
That's
it's 8 and 7.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at the French game, shall we? The hot favourites for the Six Nations. They play Ireland.
Yeah, this one I should point out, Nicky. I mean, our guys are trying to see some turnover. We don't see a lot of turnover in rugby union, so we're trying to see some turnover. So that probably is why we've stuck on a cap. This is actually a little bit of an arb at the moment, if you wanted to look, which is not normally something I'd encourage. But we want to see.
Just quickly explain that if you can.
Yeah, you can back the other side of it and make a profit. We don't
Your
encourage
best price France. Yeah?
Well, you can get a little bit. It's the 130 is the best in the world.
It's
the best.
But best price Ireland.
Sorry. And I mean, no, the 130 on, I should say.
Yeah.
But if you look at this game, we're not expecting to see turnover. We'd like to see some money for France. No massive opinion on it, but they left a little bit of doubt, and Ireland fought to the end last week. It's one of those games where we're looking to stimulate some activity in rugby, which is a small sport for us.
Let's look at the handicap odds, and 9 points is what France are going to be giving. Any ears pricking up?
I think.
I don't know.
I mean, just looking at the prices there again, I think you have to relate back to the bet that went wrong last week on the French handicap and say that they're masters of just getting the job done. So because that falls within one try, I would say that maybe the value's with Ireland on that one.
Yeah, I mean, last week I was quite happy to give up 19. I wasn't so happy at the end. I wouldn't really want to give up 9. I mean, the difference between an Ireland team and an Italy team is massive. You know, if anything, I'm not going to play too much on this game, but that just looks a bit too high.
In that case, by process of elimination, I know the game you
like.
You
figured it out.
I figured it out. It's Wales-Scotland.
It is.
And why do you like Wales-Scotland?
Well, again, I'll hark back to something I talk about often in punting. Alan used the word there, overreaction to what happened last week. Punters generally, and people in life generally, react to things that they've recently seen happen.
Don't they just, yeah.
Now, prior to last week's games, Wales were as big as a 4-point underdog against Ireland, and people were saying Scotland had a real chance to beat England, and they were only a 2-point underdog. Now, Scotland definitely made some mistakes in the game. They definitely had chances to score a try. They were way more likely of the two teams to score last week, and they pretty much made, some kind of New England Patriots type mistakes. few drops and a few, ones which you wouldn't have expected. Whereas Wales won quite an exciting game against Ireland. People have really overreacted, though.
Let's look at the points handicap on this game, because this is what's key, right?
Yeah, 13 points to me looks, nice. I'm quite looking forward to going out there and snapping up a bit of that. That's a lot of points in what, for me, is a really close-looking game.
Fantastic. Well, there's your opportunity on the Six Nations this weekend. Hope that's helped you out. Do bet on the rugby. It's fun to bet on. After the break, we'll get our tips from our punters and also our specials from our bookies. This is where you get the real value from watching the show. You don't want to go anywhere. Welcome back to the last part of the punter, where we're going to look at some specific bets and tips for you if you hadn't already had enough intelligence on this weekend sport. We're going to start with our resident punter, Flash, and as ever, he's going to give us 5 tips for the weekend. Flash's 5 is what we call it.
Yeah, boys, I've gone for Man United, obviously, to beat Liverpool. I think that you don't often get Man United at such good odds at home, and I expect Man United to go on and win the league, and in which case they've got to win tomorrow. Queen's Park Rangers, we've already spoken about away at Queen's Park Rangers, away at Blackburn. Mark Hughes going back to his old club. They reckon they'll get their 3 points, and I've got no reason to think that they won't. Arsenal away at Sunderland, gone really against the grain there because Arsenal are a bit flimsy. But again, I wasn't too impressed with Sunderland the other night, and I think that Arsenal coming back on the back of the 7-1, that they're quite good value. Sheffield Wednesday away and Charlton away. Now the 5 actually is 50-1, but if Queen's Park Rangers actually win, you can do the 4-timers, because I think it comes to about 20-1 for the 4 as long as Queen's Park Rangers are involved. So 5 4-timers and an acca, 6 bets. But if Queen's Park Rangers are in there and one lets you down, you're still going to clear about 20-1.
Great stuff, Flash. You've got some Premier League games in there. You usually stay away. I'm interested that you're
yeah,
not
because certain teams have got to start winning and try and go with form and also the desperation of having to win. Now, Man United, obviously, they've got to win if they're going to win the title. Queen's Park Rangers, they want to pull themselves clear. But there's a few factors in the Queen's Park Rangers one. That Blackburn are not too clever at home. They are massively down on confidence at home. And Queen's Park Rangers, new boys, and they want to get a win under their belt quickly. So I would go with Queen's Park Rangers, Arsenal, and Man United at the Premier.
Great stuff, Flash. Thanks so much once again. We'll talk to you again next week. Have a good weekend.
And you.
And while we're resident puntering it, Mr. Neil Channing, we need a good week.
Well, yeah,
the Super Bowl. I was with you all the way and didn't pan out. So
what can I say?
How are we going to make it back for the charity?
We already touched on the rugby. I don't need to harp on about it. The roof will be closed apparently in Cardiff. And Scotland, who haven't scored a try, I did make a note, I think it was their last 4 games they haven't scored a try. They said they were delighted the roof would be closed because it gives them a chance to play their expansive style of rugby. So I did think that was amusing. But I just think 13 points just sounds like a lot, doesn't it? We already touched, I'll go to the bottom one because we already touched on it, and I think we all agreed. Newcastle to beat Tottenham. When I looked, it was a bit of 7-1. I think it is actually might only be 13-2 at best price. But
we'll give you 7-1.
You can't go too bad there.
You can't make your prices up.
Tell us about Norwich, because you're
Norwich. I
this,
love
right?
Norwich. Now, obviously, the downside of this bet is that Swansea don't concede too many goals at home, but Norwich do score a lot of goals generally, and I just think they're really underrated. Now, I love Swansea generally. I think they're playing really good football. They're both underrated teams. But just the price does it for me. 7-2 Norwich away from home in a game where I think they're big odds on to score. And Swansea although they don't concede many, they don't really score that many either. I think if Norwich score 2, they'll definitely win the game. Okay, great stuff. We'll check in with Nigel. Nigel, our betting butler. What have you got for us this weekend we haven't covered off? Anything else that has caught your eye?
Well, on the football, I totally disagree with Channing. I think I like Swansea. I really do like Swansea. I think for the first time this season, Norwich have a massive injury crisis. There are about 8 key players.
Obviously, I wouldn't know about that.
Yeah, they're about 8 players. So I think it's going to be a big move on Swansea overnight. I really think that. I know there will be. But so I think the Norwich price will probably get a lot bigger than what it is.
Sounds like I'm having more on.
And in the rugby, I think the Ireland game, I like Ireland France. I think over 44.5 points, over 45.5 points. If you look at the average over the last 6 years, they averaged 51 points in that game. It's always a very, very free-flowing rugby game. And Ireland have got nothing to lose. They've got to go and take the game to France. So I think that one will produce points. So over the points in the Ireland game. And I'm going to go against Channers and go for Swansea at home to beat Norwich.
We like it. Great stuff as ever, Nigel. Thank you for that. On the points one's really interesting, actually. Al, you've got Formula One story you'd like to...
Yeah, the cars are back on track, not in public at the moment. That comes the second week.
Oh, inside knowledge, come on.
Second week of March, when the first race actually takes place in Australia. But they're testing down in southern Spain at the moment, in Jerez. I hope I pronounced that right.
Jerez.
And now, 4 years ago, down in Jerez, there was...
Nice. I'm sorry.
Great segue.
Down there in southern Spain,
Yeah.
Jenson Button was testing a car for a Brawn team that had just introduced themselves to Formula One, just to pick up the embers of a dying team that Button was actually in. Now, they went testing on the track and recorded a 1:19 lap, which was incredible. It's 3 seconds faster than all the established cars. Cut a long story short, he's back to 100 to 1 that day, into 66 to 1. Over the 3 days of testing, reaches 8 to 1 and wins the title at the end of the year, having been back to 100 to 1 off that first day of testing. The same thing has happened this year.
Press record, everyone.
Albeit at a smaller price, on Kimi Räikkönen. Now, he was champion 2 years ago. He's been rallying, but he's come back for the Lotus team. Lotus have been really working on their car. They held a lot back last year towards the end of the season, but they've come back with an amazing car, clocking 1:19. It's only been beaten in 1 lap by a Red Bull, which you'd obviously expect, but 1:19 is a hell of a pace, and 66 to 1 into 16 to 1. And his partner Roman
Possibly
Grosjean
still value at 16
is
to 1.
150. Well, I think the value lies with an each-way bet on Lotus to actually be constructors now, because the price has
Fantastic.
gone.
We'll get into some serious Formula One action when it happens. Russ, a quick word on that?
Yeah, listen, fantastic info. That's the kind of stuff we want to be dragging out of it. But for me, for the weekend, I'm football all weekend. I'm at Old Trafford. I'm at Molineux. I'll be under goals. I'll be taking on these rugby favourites as well. But that's the kind of information that really kind of tweaks it in our favour, doesn't it?
It is the reason to watch this show. Yeah. We've given you some great stuff as ever. My thanks to all of our experts, to the betting butler, to Flash, to Russ, Al and Neil. I'm going to gamble at the weekend. I'm going to go to Old Trafford. I'm pretty certain they have a plastic scouse detector, so pretty worried about that. Keep it with us. We'll be back this time next week for some more punting action. Have a great weekend.
Stay ahead of the game with Sports Tonight Live. Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Search for Sports Tonight Live on Facebook and like our fan page. Follow Sports Tonight TV on Twitter and tweet us your thoughts and opinions. Sports Tonight Live, it's the platform for the fans.